You've seen the claims. This penny is worth $1 million. This quarter can make you rich overnight. But is it true? The truth is, most of it is completely fake. Exaggerated prices, misleading hype. That's what we're here to expose. Welcome to Rare Coin Collecting.
The year is 1988. America is winding down the Reagan era. The Cold War is in its final chapters. And in the world of coinage, the humble Lincoln cent is still holding strong as the longest-running U.S. coin design. By this time, the Lincoln Memorial Reverse had been in place for nearly 30 years, since 1959. At first glance, the 1988 penny looks utterly ordinary. Billions were made, and nearly everyone alive in the United States has spent one at some point. But as we know by now, there is no such thing as just a penny. Some 1988 cents have turned out to be treasures hiding in plain sight, worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars under the right conditions. The 1988 Lincoln cent was struck at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 5.2 billion coins. The Denver Mint made more than 5.3 billion. And the San Francisco Mint struck proof coins for collectors, about 3.2 million. That's a staggering total, and for the most part, these coins are still extremely common in circulation. Most are worth just 1 cent today, but condition and variety change everything. One of the key points of interest for 1988 cents is the transitional variety known as the 1988 reverse of 1989. On some Philadelphia and Denver coins, the reverse die used was actually the design intended for 1989 cents. The difference? Look closely at the FG initials for designer Frank Gasparo on the reverse, near the base of the memorial. On the older design, the letters are thinner and spaced differently. On the newer 1989 reverse, the initials are bolder and closer to the building. Finding a 1988 penny with the reverse of 1989 is like finding a time machine error, and collectors pay handsomely for it. Auction records back this up. A 1928, Lincoln cent with the reverse of 1989, in high grade MS67 red, sold for more than $2,500 at heritage auctions. Even circulated examples of this variety can sell for $50 to $100 if properly attributed. This shows how tiny details most people overlook can mean the difference between a penny and a prize. Now let's talk about condition. The vast majority of 1988 cents are heavily circulated, scratched, and dull. They're worth only face value. But in mint state condition, particularly those certified by PCGS or NGC, with a grade of MS67 or higher and full red RD designation, values skyrocket. A standard 1988 Philadelphia cent in MS67, red is sold for around $400 to $500. The Denver version has reached nearly the same levels. And if you somehow come across an MS68 red, the record price jumps over $2,800. For a coin that costs just 1 cent to spend, that's a staggering return. Proof versions from San Francisco also carry premiums, though they're more common since they were struck specifically for collectors. A perfect PR70 Deep Cameo, 1988S can sell for $100–200, which is modest compared to business strike rarities but still attractive. When it comes to buying and selling, here's the strategy. For beginners, don't waste energy on worn circulated 1988 cents unless they carry the reverse of 1989 variety. The real money lies in high-grade uncirculated coins and varieties. If you're searching rolls, tubes, or bank bags, keep a jeweler's loupe handy to examine the FG initials. If you think you found the variety, submit it for certification. Selling raw coins may bring in a few bucks, but certified coins can bring hundreds or thousands. On the flip side, for sellers, auction houses like Heritage and Stacks, Bowers are the best places to maximize profit. If you have a high-grade or rare variety, for average coins, eBay can still attract buyers, but again, certification is the key to top-dollar returns. And now a word of caution about cleaning. Too many new collectors think a bright, shiny coin will sell for more, but experts and grading companies instantly detect cleaning. A polished 1988 cent will actually be worth less than a naturally toned one. Always store coins properly, use protective flips, capsules, or albums, and never clean. A coin's natural luster is its most valuable asset, So where might you find one of these gems today? Check bankrolls, pocket change, old jars of coins in your family's home, and estate sales. Many of the high-grade examples discovered came from people who saved uncirculated rolls in the late 1980s. At the time, people thought maybe copper cents would return, or inflation would make pennies obsolete. Those stashed rolls now serve as treasure troves for collectors hunting the elusive reverse of 1989 variety or pristine MS-68 examples. And that's the magic of coin collecting. A penny most people ignore, dropped on sidewalks, tossed into jars, even discarded, can turn into hundreds or thousands of dollars with the right eye and a little patience. The 1988 Lincoln cent is a reminder of why we search. Billions of coins may exist, but hidden among them are treasures, accidents, and varieties that change everything. The record sales prove it. Collectors are willing to pay thousands for the finest examples and the rare transitional reverse. So the next time you see a 1988 penny, don't dismiss it. Turn it over, check those FG initials, study the luster, because you might be holding a coin that's not worth just 1 cent, but one that can make you hundreds or even thousands richer. The year is 1992. The U.S. economy is in transition. The Gulf War has just ended, and America is preparing to elect a new president. Meanwhile, at the Denver Mint, billions of pennies roll off the presses, seemingly ordinary to the untrained eye. But among those countless copper-plated zinc cents lies one of the most dramatic and valuable modern rarities, the 1992 D. Close AM Lincoln cent. To understand why this coin matters, we need context. In 1959, the reverse of the Lincoln cent was changed to feature the Lincoln Memorial. On most memorial cents from 1959 through 1992, the letters A and M in America are clearly separated, with a noticeable gap between them. This is known as the wide AM design. Starting in 1993, the Mint adopted a new reverse where the A and M are much closer together, nearly touching in the close AM design. Here's the twist. In 1992, before the official changeover, a few Denver and Philadelphia cents were struck using the new 1993 close AM. Reverse dies by mistake. These transitional varieties are incredibly rare and among the most sought-after Lincoln Memorial cents of all time. So what's the difference? On the 1992 D close AM cent, the A and M in America are so close they nearly touch at the base. Compare it with a regular 1992 cent, and you'll see a clear space in between. Additionally, the initials FG on the reverse are slightly different, closer to the memorial, building on the close AM variety. It's a tiny detail, but this tiny difference turns an ordinary 1 cent coin into a coin worth thousands of dollars. Now let's talk rarity and prices. Regular 1992 D cents, even in mint condition, are extremely common. Over 4.4 billion were struck, and most are worth only face value. But the 1992 D close AM is a different story. In 2006, one sold at heritage auctions for over $20,000. In mint state condition, since then prices have only climbed. A PCGS graded MS-64 red example sold for $2,550 in 2008. In 2012, another reached $2,700. Even in circulated grades, if attributed correctly, these coins can bring several hundred to a few $1,000s. For collectors, this makes roll searching and change hunting very exciting. Imagine sifting through a handful of pennies and suddenly spotting that rare, close AM variety. People have found them in bankrolls, circulation, and old coin jars. And that's the thrill of the hunt. A penny that costs someone 1 cent can literally pay your rent, or even a small car. Condition, as always, plays a major role. A standard 1992 D, in average circulated shape, is only worth a cent. In mint state red condition, a normal 1992 D might sell for $5 to $15. But the close AM variety in top grades skyrockets in value, making condition and proper attribution crucial. Collectors specifically chase those with the blazing original mint, luster, and no marks. Now let's add some practical advice for buyers and sellers. If you're buying, don't rely solely on pictures online unless the variety is certified. There are countless fake listings that simply circle the AM on a photo, trying to pass off an ordinary wide AM as the rare one. The only safe way is to buy certified coins graded by PCGS or NGC. For sellers, if you believe you found one, Resist the temptation to list it raw on eBay immediately. Submit it for authentication first. That certification could be the difference between selling for $50 and selling for $20,000. And let's cover cleaning. The worst thing you can do is try to improve the look of a potential close AM find. Cleaning destroys the natural mint luster, and graders will instantly label it improperly cleaned, slashing the value by thousands. It's better to leave it as is. Even a circulated but original example is worth more than a shiny, damaged one. One fascinating fact is that fewer than 20 confirmed examples of the 1992D Close AM have been authenticated by major grading companies. That makes it rarer than many classic coin varieties from the 19th century. It's also part of a very short list of modern transitional errors, alongside the 1992 Close AM from Philadelphia and the famous 1999 Wide AM cents for history buffs. It's also worth noting that the 1992D penny is one of the last issues struck during the long memorial cent era before the shift to new designs in later decades. Transitional pieces like the Close AM embody a snapshot of the mint's production changes and mistakes. And collectors absolutely love these accidental rarities. So what's the takeaway? A 1992D penny might look like pocket change, but with the Close AM reverse, it's a modern treasure, worth anywhere from hundreds to tens of thousands of dollars depending on grade. These coins prove that you don't always need to search centuries-old silver or gold to strike it rich. Even a common-looking, copper-plated zinc penny from the early 90s can become a jackpot if you know what to look for. So next time you see a 1992D cent, pause before tossing it in your change jar. Flip it over! Look at the AM in America. Check those FG initials, because if those letters are close enough to kiss, you just might be holding one of the rarest and most valuable modern pennies in U.S. history. The year is 1982. The U.S. Mint is at a turning point. Copper prices are climbing, and the cost of making a penny is becoming more than the penny itself is worth. For decades, the Lincoln cent had been struck in 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing 3.11 grams. But in 1982, that all changed. To save money, the mint transitioned to a new composition: copper-plated zinc, just 2.5 grams in weight, with only a thin layer of copper over a zinc core. This year stands out because it wasn't just a simple switch. It became one of the most complicated issues in all of U.S. coinage. In total, there are 7 major varieties of 1982 cents, and the 1982D is at the heart of the story. So what happened? Well, in 1982, the mint produced coins in both metals, copper and zinc. They also used 2 different date styles, the large date and the small date. Combine those factors with the 2 mints, Philadelphia and Denver, and you end up with 7 known varieties. But for decades, collectors believed there were only 7. Then, in 2016, something extraordinary surfaced: the 1982D small date copper cent. This discovery sent shockwaves through the coin world. Why? Because officially, the mint never made that variety. All 1982D small dates were supposed to be struck on zinc planches only, yet somehow a few were struck on leftover copper planches from earlier that year. That mistake created one of the most coveted modern rarities in U.S. coinage. To break it down clearly, here are the known 1982 varieties: 1982 large date copper, 1982 small date copper, 1982 large date zinc, 1982 small date zinc, 1982D large date copper, 1982D large date zinc, 1982D small date zinc, and then the unexpected 8th variety, 1982D small date copper, the Holy Grail. So how rare is it? As of today, only a handful of genuine examples of the 1982D small date copper have been authenticated by PCGS and NGC. One graded MS63, brown by PCGS, sold for $1,800 in 2017. Another example, graded AU58 by PCGS, brought $2,800 in 2021. Prices remain strong because collectors view this as a major transitional error, a coin that wasn't supposed to exist, yet slipped out into circulation. For regular 1982D cents, values depend heavily on the variety and condition. Copper large dates are worth a little over face value in circulated grades, maybe 25 cents to $1 in uncirculated. The zinc versions are even less desirable, usually just worth face value unless they're pristine red uncirculated examples. But again, the rare copper small date is the one that turns heads. Now let's talk identification. How do you know what you have? First, check the weight. A copper cent weighs about 3.11 grams, while a zinc one weighs 2.5 grams. You'll need a precise digital scale that measures to 2 decimal places. If it weighs over 3 grams, it's copper. Under 2.6 grams, zinc. Second, check the date style. On the small date, the 2 in 1982 has a sharp curve, and the top of the 8 sits almost level with the 9 and 2. On the large date, the 2 looks fatter, and the 8 sits slightly higher. These small details make all the difference. For collectors and treasure hunters, this means every single 1982D cent you come across is worth a second look. Imagine sitting with a pile of pennies, weighing them one by one, and suddenly spotting that rare small date copper. That's the kind of discovery that can change a collector's life. Now for grading and condition, as always, red uncirculated examples command the highest prices. A normal 1982D, large date copper in MS67, red can bring a couple $100, even though it's common in lower grades. Zinc examples, however, don't hold up as well over time. They corrode, bubble, and spot easily, making high-grade survivors rare and more valuable than you'd think. Let's move to buying and selling tips. If you're a buyer looking for a 1982D small date copper, certification is everything. Never gamble on raw coins sold online. There are far too many misidentified or outright fake listings. Only trust PCGS or NGC certified examples. If you're a seller who thinks you found one, don't clean it, don't polish it, and don't rush to sell it. Submit it to a grading service first, because authentication can multiply the value many times over. And that brings us to cleaning. With 1982 cents, especially zinc ones, cleaning is disastrous. Zinc cents are already fragile, and a cleaning attempt can strip off the thin copper layer or cause ugly discoloration. Even copper ones lose their luster when scrubbed. Collectors value originality above all else. A coin that looks old and honest is worth more than a shiny, damaged piece. Historically, the 1982D is also fascinating because it represents the exact moment the U.S. Mint transitioned from copper to zinc. This change wasn't just about cost cutting, and it symbolized a shift in how coins were made in modern America. From that year forward, the penny was no longer the heavy, solid copper coin people grew up with, but a lightweight, cheaper substitute. That transition makes 1982 cents important historically, even before we factor in the varieties and rarities. So what's the big takeaway? A 1982D penny might seem like the most ordinary coin in your pocket, but in reality, it could be one of the most complex and valuable modern rarities. Most are worth just 1 cent, but the rare 1982D small date copper cent can sell for over $15,000, making it a legendary transitional variety. And that's the beauty of coin collecting. Sometimes the rarest treasures aren't centuries-old silver or gold, but the pennies hiding in your change. All it takes is knowledge, patience, and a good scale, and you just might uncover one of the rarest modern cents in existence. The 1990s were a busy decade for the U.S. Mint. Billions of pennies were struck each year, most of them common copper-plated zinc cents worth only face value. But in 1995, something slipped through that turned an ordinary coin into one of the most popular modern errors ever discovered. The 1995 doubled die obverse. For most people, the 1995 penny looks like any other. It features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and a tiny D or P mint mark depending on where it was struck. But collectors know to look closely at the obverse, specifically at the inscriptions, "Liberty and in God we trust." On certain coins, those letters show dramatic doubling, the result of a die that was hubbed twice out of alignment. Now, here's what makes it exciting. This doubling is bold and visible to the naked eye. You don't need a microscope or fancy equipment, just a good pair of eyes or a magnifying glass. When you see a true 1995 doubled die, the letters in Liberty look doubled, and the motto above Lincoln's head appears almost like it was written twice. This error wasn't rare in the sense of being one of a kind. In fact, estimates suggest over 500,000 examples may have entered circulation before the mint caught on. That means plenty of them are still out there today in pocket change, coin jars, and old rolls. But while it's not ultra-rare, it is extremely popular, and when popularity drives value. Let's talk money. A regular 1995 penny is worth just 1 cent, but a genuine 1995 doubled die obverse can bring anywhere from $25 to $50 in circulated grades and $100 to $300 in mint state red condition. In the highest grades, prices really soar. A stunning MS69 red, example graded by PCGS, sold for $5,052 in 2020. That's over $5,000 for a modern penny struck in the billions, all because of one minting mistake. There are also varieties to note. The most famous is the 1995 Philadelphia double die obverse. Denver minted coins marked with a D do not have this doubling, though they can still be valuable in pristine condition. So if you're searching, focus on 1995 cents with no mint mark. Those were struck in Philadelphia, and that's where the double die exists. Now, how do you avoid mistakes when searching? Many beginners confuse a true double die with machine doubling. Machine doubling happens when the die bounces slightly during the strike, leaving flat shelf-like edges on the letters. True double dies, like the 1995 DDO, show rounded, clear secondary images of the letters. That distinction is critical. Machine doubling has no added value, while a genuine double die can be worth hundreds. When it comes to grading and condition, as always, red uncirculated coins command the highest prices. Zinc cents from the 1990s are notorious for spotting, toning, and corroding, so finding one that's still blazing red and flawless is very tough. That's why the top-graded coins, MS68 or MS69 reds, sell for thousands, while circulated examples are much more affordable. Let's move on to tips for collectors. If you're a buyer, the best advice is to stick with certified coins when spending big money. PCGS and NGC both authenticate and grade 1995 double dies, and certification protects you from fakes or misidentified machine doubling. If you're just getting started, you can still cherry-pick rolls of 1995 cents from banks or coin shops. Many people have found the double die this way. If you're a seller, resist the urge to clean your coin. Cleaning a zinc cent can destroy its thin copper plating, leave ugly marks, or cause discoloration. Collectors strongly prefer coins in their natural state, even if they show a bit of age. A cleaned coin will almost always sell for less. Now for a bit of history. The 1995 double die obverse holds a special place in the hobby because it was one of the last major double dies created under the older hubbing process. In later years, as minting technology improved, dramatic double dies became far less common. That makes the 1995 cent something of a last hurrah for bold, collectible double dies and a final classic. Example that new collectors can still find without needing a fortune. Auction records really highlight this coin's potential. Beyond the $5,000 record breaker, there are dozens of sales in the $1,000, $3,000 range for high-grade gems. Even mid-level mint state examples often bring a few $100s at auction, which is impressive for a coin you might still pull from circulation today. So what's the big lesson? The 1995 penny shows us that even in modern times, rare and valuable errors can still slip through the cracks. Most 1995 pennies are worth only a cent, but the double die obverse turns an ordinary coin into a collectible worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. It's living proof that treasure is still out there in pocket change, just waiting to be found. And that's the thrill of coin collecting: history, mistakes, and the chance of a big discovery, all hidden in the coins we use every day. When people think of valuable pennies, they often go straight to the old wheat cents from the early 1900s, but modern coins, the ones many of us ignore in change, can also hide treasures. The 1983 D Lincoln cent, struck at the Denver Mint, is a perfect example. While billions were produced, certain varieties and errors have made this coin one of the most searched for modern cents in circulation. To understand why, let's go back to a major change in U.S. coinage. In 1982, the mint made a huge shift. Pennies switched from being mostly copper to being made of zinc with a thin copper plating. This change was driven by cost. Copper had become too expensive. So starting in mid-1982, pennies were 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. By 1983, Every single cent struck, and including the 1983D, was copper-plated zinc. This switch led to new challenges. Zinc is softer and reacts differently during striking, which caused some surprising varieties. That's where the famous 1983 double die reverse comes in. Though most 1983D pennies are ordinary, some examples show dramatic doubling on the reverse lettering, especially on United States of America, 1 cent and A pluribus unum. This double die reverse is one of the most dramatic of the modern Lincoln cents. It's not subtle. Even beginners can spot it with the naked eye. Instead of a faint blur or shadow, the letters show bold, clear doubling, making the coin jump out immediately once you've seen it. Now let's talk about rarity and values. A normal 1983D penny is only worth face value, maybe a couple cents in uncirculated rolls. But the 1983D double die reverse can bring serious money. In circulated grades, it sells for around $75 to $200 mint state. Examples are far more desirable. An MS65 red is worth about $500 to $1,000, and the record price is jaw-dropping. A BCGS MS68 red 1983D DDR sold for $7,050 in 2017. That's over $7,000 for a modern penny from your change jar. One thing collectors love about this variety is that it's still findable. Thousands of examples exist, but the vast majority are hiding in circulation, old rolls, or collections where people haven't checked carefully. That's why roll hunting is still popular. 1983 pennies are so common that people often overlook them, and with a little patience you could stumble across one of these gems. But it's not just the double die that makes the 1983D interesting. This was also the first full year of zinc cents, and many of them suffer from plating bubbles, corrosion, or peeling. That makes finding one in pristine, red, lustrous condition especially challenging. Even ordinary 1983D pennies in MS67 red can bring strong prices, often over $400, simply because so few have survived without flaws. Now let's talk about grading and condition. The scale runs from circulated brown examples to red brown, and then full red on circulated coins. Since zinc cents are fragile, coins with blazing red luster are much scarcer and much more valuable. If you're buying, always aim for certified red examples, because the price difference between red and red brown can be hundreds of dollars. As for buying and selling tips, if you're a buyer, beware of machine doubling. Many beginners confuse it with the true double die. Machine doubling produces flat, shelf-like doubling that lacks depth. True double dies show rounded, distinct secondary images of the letters. Only trust coins certified by PCGS or NGC if you're paying top dollar. If you're just searching rolls, study photos of the real variety so you don't get tricked. If you're a seller, remember this golden rule. Never clean a coin. Cleaning can strip away the delicate copper plating of a zinc cent, leaving ugly marks, spots, or bare zinc exposed. Collectors strongly prefer natural surfaces even if they show a bit of age. A cleaned coin can lose half or more of its potential value instantly. Rarity also depends on condition. While circulated examples of the 1983D DDR are somewhat available, true gems in MS67 or MS68 red are incredibly scarce. That's why auction houses like Heritage or Stack's Bowers see bidding wars when these top-grade coins come up for sale. Let's recap the highlights. The ordinary 1983D penny is just pocket change, but the 1983D doubled die reverse is one of the most dramatic and valuable modern errors, worth anywhere from $100 to $7,000 plus, depending on condition. It's popular, well-known, and still hiding in circulation, making it a dream find for collectors. And beyond the error, even a superbly preserved regular 1983D can bring big money because high-grade zinc cents are so hard to find. So the next time you get a handful of pennies, don't dismiss the 1980s coins as worthless. One careful look at a 1983D could turn a single cent into thousands of dollars. That's the magic of coin collecting. History, rarity, and treasure hunting, all in one little coin.